welcome to the shop. Today we've got something a little bit unusual. It's a challenge that I've got to overcome, and that challenge is to hold a sphere. Now there are a lot of tools that you can buy on the market to do that. I am going to use a tool that is available from Bestwood Tools in order to make my own sphere holder. So it's going to be a little bit different. The sphere, turning the sphere itself isn't really that difficult. It's finding ways to hold it effectively so that you can make it spherical. That can be a challenge. So in order to help me do that, I'm going to show you a new tool from Bestwood that is going to up my game because it turns my one-way style live center. This is a robust, but it's the same style live center. It's going to turn that live center into my own custom live center in order to hold a spherical piece. Now, about 6 years ago, I made this. This is a 4-axis walnut talon or claw in a cherry base. I've got a glass dome that goes over it, and it held a sphere that was made of cherry burl. That sphere has absconded. Not sure where it walked off to, but it's gone. So we're going to make a new sphere to be featured in the claw here of this little sculptural piece. This was intended as something that was found, say, on a back shelf hidden in the Smithsonian that came from an Antarctic expedition and is evidence of alien life. It was kind of the fun little story I told myself in my head when I carved this. It was just a fun project to do, and I'll probably do some more that are similar. This was about 6 years ago that I made this initially, and my skills have changed since then. So we will do some more multi-axis weird carving in the future. But today I just want to make a new sphere to fit in the top of this. And when you make a sphere, if you make a sphere, that you've got to hold it between centers and finish the spherical part of it. So we're going to start just normal drive center and live center, but then we're going to use the new tool that I'm going to show you in order to make cup centers. Well, one cup center for the drive center, that just goes in a chuck, that's easy. But a cup center for the live center on a faceplate that fits the live center. It's a cool little set of tools, 2 faceplates and a Morse taper with an adapter that's threaded to fit the live center, the one-way style live center. So I can turn my little cup out of any piece of wood laying around in the shop, anything, and then transfer it from the drive to the live center and have a custom live center. So stick around, let's get this started. First, we need to find a piece of wood that's going to make a good mystical alien. We're going to start out with this very heavily figured piece of crotch section of spalted elm. You can see that there was some rot here. And I want to try to see if maybe we can keep a little of the live edge, or the natural edge there, from inside of the tree. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do that. We're cross grain oriented right now. End grain is this way. But I want to see if I can get a roughly ball shape around this void here and kind of feature that. So we're going to play with it and see what happens. We're going to start the lathe really slow. We're out of balance, but it's very light. We definitely will be able to turn this without any problems because there's not a lot of weight there. So let's get this round and see what we can do with it. It's an unusual shape. It is off balance. So the first thing we need to do, rotate by hand. Make sure that you're not making contact with your tool rest. And the first thing we're going to do is round it out. Face shield is definitely warranted. It's a very small piece, but it's very off balance. And because of the heavy spalting in the void, well, we don't know if that's going to fly apart. So wear your face shield. starting to kind of pare away at the outer edges. The sphere is going to set over here. So I'm just going to kind of work at that. Erase the speed once I got it into balance so that I could get cleaner cuts. Oh, well, there's some really nice figure going on in here. And I think we're going to do it. We're going to get to a ball shape. We want to, yeah, we're going to do it. This is going to be kind of crazy. This is going to be cool. We're going to keep working at it a little at a time. Take our time. It's kind of a one-ended to get it to the round because of that inclusion. But the inclusion is what's going to give this the figure and the character and make it look wild and alien. I'm going to keep working at it. I'll get you guys a little bit closer. Got it too thin there, so we're going to cut that off with a little saw, and then we're going to get it between centers in a different orientation. Here's where we have to make something to drive it and to steady it so that it doesn't mark it up because it's very soft. So we have to have something soft. We can't use metal because it'll just dig in. So we've got to use wood. So here's where we make our special drive center or live center. I've already opened this and done a little investigation, so I made sure I had the right size screws. But here is your Morse taper with your faceplate. That is threaded to fit the drive center, and it's also threaded to take 3/8 by 16 TPI drawbar to hold it into place while you turn your whatever your shape is. One of the things I like a lot about Bestwood's faceplates is that there's a chamfer here, so that when you screw it in and that pulls that little piece of wood up, it clears and you sit flat. Your piece sits flat on the faceplate. What I did discover, I went through my cupboard and didn't have the right size wood screws for this. These are number 8 wood screws, and these are 1 inch long, and that fits perfectly. Number 8 panhead wood screws fits perfectly. So the whole point of this is that you can use any piece of wood sitting in your shop and turn it into a live center. So what have we got rolling around? Random chunk of maple. Random chunk of maple, not square, but it has a flat side. We'll grab a drill There's one around here somewhere with a, there it is. Grab a drill and we'll put that on. Doesn't really matter if it's centered. I'm going to round it. I am coming into end grain. You want to be careful. Screwing into end grain, it can, don't push it too hard. It can come apart. You're usually better off coming into cross grain. But there we go. Boom. I've now got the faceplate that mounts to our little drive center, and that is threaded to match my live center. We'll just screw that in there, and then we will use a drawbar, which is also available at Bestwood Tools, to fit your lathe. Lock the lathe, tighten that down so that will hold our little piece, and we're going to make a cut center to fit our little sphere. It's that quick and easy. I've got a good hold on it, and we're going to turn it real quick and put it on the live center, which is where the real magic happens. We got too much wood here and it needs to be much smaller. So what we're going to do is kind of take it down, and that's another piece of that spalted elm. That's kind of funny. We're going to take it down and shape it so that it's small enough to hold our little sphere. Goes back in the bucket of cutoffs, and here's why you need a drawbar. At this point, I've got to shape this end and dish it out a little bit, and without the drawbar, it will just bounce the Morse taper out. So make sure you have a drawbar. One sphere center. My own custom live center right there. Now, when you're removing your drawbar, back it out a couple of turns, and while it's got about 3 threads still in the Morse taper, you can tap it to knock your Morse taper loose. That maintains the threads. If you use your drawbar as a knockout bar, meaning it's loose and you're sliding it back and forth and hitting it, that will actually damage the threads. But if you've got a couple of threads in, you can knock your taper loose. So it's threaded in. It's threaded in. There's that much room. So you can tap it to knock your taper loose and know that you've got threads that secure, so it's not going to tear up your tapped threads or your drawbar. So this kit comes with 2 faceplates. These are aluminum. They're extremely lightweight. And then, of course, your steel Morse taper that is machined to fit. And it's a good solid, you saw I had to use a wrench to pop it loose. It's a good solid fit between the aluminum and the steel, so it's not going to go anywhere. You, of course, can put a pin in your live center and tighten and loosen. So you've got that as well. If you're worried about things coming loose, it shouldn't. And so what we're going to do now is put a chuck on here, make a corresponding drive center out of wood so that we can put our little ball in between. So this is just a 3/4 inch jam that I made for another piece. And this is why I love the idea from Captain Eddie Castellan, founder of Worldwide Woodturners. This is why I keep a bucket of cutoffs, all these little weird pieces, because they can become useful at later dates. Here, this is the perfect thing. I'm going to part it, dish it, and I've got matching drive and live centers. Just from cutoffs, stuff sitting around the shop. I didn't know what I was going to use it for, but I knew eventually it'll get put back into use. A little bucket that catches all your little cutoffs is an invaluable tool. Especially when you start making weird shapes and things. Or you need to plug the bottom of a piece. You just need something that'll fit and fill it. A bucket of cutoffs is the way to go. We just soften those edges. And we'll bring up our little sphere. All right, here we are. We're obviously not spherical yet, but we will get there. So I've got essentially a soft touch on each side, thanks to this little faceplate. And now I can work on this and spin it and turn it and get it spherical. Sanding your skew chisel makes a pretty decent negative rake scraper for situations like this. This is pretty heavily spalted, but we're going to do a little work with some sanding and get some finish on it. I want to point out something that I think is a really neat feature, I guess. It's not really a feature, it's just a fact. When you're using wooden drive and wooden live centers, if you bump that with a tool, you're not going to mess up your tool. You're not going to mess up your faceplate because it's just more wood. Same with the drive side. If I bump this end with the tool, I'm not cutting into my chuck. I'm not messing up my tool. So there's a lot to be said for using wooden drives for specific small work like this, where you don't necessarily want to bump something with your cutting edge of your tool. Do some sanding, put a little finish on here, and come back and talk about the finished product. Here we have our little sphere designed to be held right there. And I'm pretty happy with the results. This spalted elm is really quite gorgeous. It's attractive, beautiful stuff. And that little inclusion, I was able to keep some of that bark inclusion. I like that. And that's why I lost the other one, because whenever you move it, it's delicate enough that they'll tip out and fall. But that worked really well. This is a wonderful addition to my toolkit. the faceplate that fits on my one-way style live center. I am ecstatic with this. The kit comes with the Morse taper to the threaded insert that fits here and also on your live center, and 2 of these aluminum faceplates. This is incredibly useful, and here's one of the things that I know I'm going to use this for. When I make these hideaway vase hollow forms, once I get it to the stage where I've turned it around and I've hollowed it and when I need to sand it and work with it, sometimes putting a live center, a conical live center in there can actually cause some problems. Whereas if I can turn a little cup that fits exactly over my neck, that will actually alleviate the problem of the possibility, because I turn these necks really thin, of splitting that. Where if I have it in a cup that fits it, then I can work around it. I can work on that cup. I can, just a little slight dish right there to hold it. This is the perfect solution that I've been looking for, to hold these so that I can do the finish work that needs to be done, and not damage the neck, the outer part of the neck when I'm working on it. So that's one of the ways that you can use this. I am thinking about how this will affect my multi-axis turning, and I think that this is going to give me an advantage in multi-axis, where I can put a plate on there with an off-center cup to hold a piece, and the whole plate will spin, and maybe a counterbalance on the other side. I'll have to play with that. There's a lot of ideas going through my head, but this is definitely a tool enhancement that I think is well worthwhile. Check it out at bestwoodtools.com. Thank you very much, Vic, for sending this along for me to play with. I have only just scratched the surface of the things that I can do with this little tool right here. It's a pretty cool tool. Well, that's all I've got for today. Thank you very much for joining me for this odd little piece that is going to return my sculptural creation here, which is called a triumvirate, to its displayable status. I also washed the glass dome, and that's drying, so that'll go back on here, and this will sit on my shelf. And now it's got a sphere again, so it has a point rather than just some weird carved claws hanging out. We'll explore this particular idea in the future. Now that 6 years, 7 years, I made it a long time ago. Now that my skill set has improved, I think the sculptural aspect will improve too. So we'll play with that in the future. But for right now, that's all I've got. Remember, just one more pass means put the bowl gouge down. Check out worldwidewoodturners.org. See you later.